Hello, everybody. Hey, this is Rob Mazak. I am a psychic medium, and I do talks on all kinds of different topics, subjects. Although most of my stuff is about spirituality or metaphysical ideas and topics. And even if I start with one that's not that way, I always seem to interlace a lot of that within it. And tonight I want to do some discussion points on politics initially as we start this conversation. And if you've heard me talk before, for one, I don't talk about politics very much. And secondly, I don't rehearse anything. I don't practice anything. I don't write anything down. I just take a topic, idea, or ideas and just kind of roll with it. So I like to say that at the beginning of each podcast because you may have listened to me before, but this may be the first time that you've actually heard me talk. So I just wanted to describe that process. So I want to start with this idea is if voting actually mattered, do you think they would let us do it? I know that sounds kind of rough and harsh. Once again, I'm also not here to convince anybody of anything, to say that what I'm putting out here in this podcast is the truth. These are my opinions, my perceptions, things that I'm seeing from my point of view. And it's not designed to point any fingers or to accuse anybody or to convince anybody of anything, only to kind of bring some things to light for people to think about. And maybe it'll help you out in some way. But I do believe that many of our presidents, and probably all of our presidents and high-end leaders, are really selected and not elected. There's lots of information out there about presidents and their stories of how they became president and even knew long before they were president that they were supposed to be president at a very specific time. One comes to mind is Barack Obama. Now, I'm not saying that's true, but the information that's out there is pretty robust, and a lot of it is out there that, in fact, his name is not Barack Obama. It's Barry Sartoro, and that he's, obviously wasn't from Hawaii, and I think it's been established now, and that, he wasn't even a citizen, so he shouldn't have been able to run. And that's just one story, of course, but that just kind of brings me around to the fact that this world is really run by people behind the scenes. Once again, in my opinion, is that it's the people that are the wealthy people of this world. And I'm not talking about a little bit of wealth. I'm talking about, multi-billionaires that have a lot at stake when it comes to policy changes and regime changes and ideas of new presidents and their administration. I guarantee you that if there are those type of people running the world or creating opportunities for themselves within this world by using us to do that there's no way that they're going to allow anybody into that office, into the presidential office or the vice presidential office, that is not going to support what they're already doing. Can you imagine being a multi-billionaire and allowing a president to come in that is going to create policies or try to force policies? And presidents can't entirely do that. I get it. Try to change policy and put their billions in jeopardy, not at jeopardy, but in jeopardy, and just watch that and allow that to happen. I don't think so. I was telling somebody today in my work section that, we were talking about money and the fact that hard to make ends meet a lot of times, and it seems to be harder and harder all the time. Well, we can circle back around on that topic. But that money is not everything, but it really is everything. Because you cannot do anything without money. It really is very difficult. I'm not saying it'll bring you peace of mind or happiness, because money in itself really makes you more of the kind of person you already are. It gives you the more of a freedom to be exactly who you are. So if you're a real butthead and you become extremely wealthy, then you just become probably going to become more of a butthead, and people allow you to do it more because you have money, and vice versa. If you're a nice person and you get money, then you're just a much nicer person because you are allowed to be that way because you have money. And so once again, money is not everything, but oh my gosh, let's just face it. You cannot do anything without the dollars or whatever currency it is you're looking at. You have to have it. There's no way that you can live effectively in this world without money in the bank, in your pocket, however it is that you have your money. You cannot actually have a place to live. You cannot necessarily have a car. Not everybody has a car, and you could probably get away without it sometimes. You need to eat, and you can't buy food without money. You know, there's all kinds of things. There's insurance, there's clothes, there's dental bills, medical bills. Oh my gosh, medical bills. You name it. You could make that list very, very large. Bottom line is it takes money to have those things, to do those things. Now, can we live with less? We can. We can always make do. But some people have really reached the point where there's just this huge homeless population. Anyway, back to the original topic. So imagine that you are a group of the elites in this, or on this globe, or on this earth, and you are watching these elections. Do you think in any way they are going to allow the process to go any way different than it is in their benefit for it to go? Meaning they are going to make sure that the candidates, the safe candidates that are up to run for president or anything in the political office in general, senators, representatives, mayors, all those things, that they need to be able to be manipulated and controlled to stay within the agenda that protects those investors in our world, all the people with all the money. I just can't imagine that they would just let any old Joe Schmo come in and they would allow the public to vote and to determine who it is that's going to create the policies or manipulate the policies through the Congress to affect their well-being. I just don't see it happening. And I would like to think that we have a vote and that it matters. But even if you look outside of this alternative view that I'm bringing up, and it's not just my thoughts. I was listening to a podcast or a video earlier today that stated the very same thing. So it's not just me out here talking about it, and I'm not the only person that sees things this way. Once again, don't know if it's true, but I imagine that it is, because money talks and BS walks, right? And do you think actually that it matters who ends up in the presidential office or any office in general? It is really, in my opinion, like the lead singer of a band. They don't write the music, they don't play the music, they're just the lead singer. And I think that's really what presidents are up there to do, to be a figurehead, to be someone that is representative of the United States or their office. But I don't think that they really get to call the shots like we think they do. If you really dig into a lot of different people that talk about politicians that know a lot more than I would, or maybe you would, there's a lot of background things or information that show that presidents really are not read in on a lot of things. For example, there's a lot of things that it's like a as needed basis. And there's a lot of agencies and organizations out there, a lot of people call them the three-letter agencies, that really dictate a lot of things that happen on this planet that are not necessarily under the purview of the president. And it's just designed that way. I'm not saying it's the best way to do things. However, that's pretty much what's going on. I think there's more policing agencies out there than people know about. And there's so many of them, I don't think they could even keep track of them all. And so who's really in charge out here? They make it sound like the President of the United States is the leader of the free world. Well, I don't know about you, but freedom is only something that is perceptual, in my opinion. If you were to look at all the laws and all the regulations and all the rules that are established by our government, our cities and municipalities and counties and towns and all that, you would be absolutely amazed how easy it is to find yourself in hot water because of all those regulatory policies and laws. I mean, I watered my lawn on the wrong day one time during a drought, where they were doing water conservation. I did some research in the process of going to court. I wanted to be a little more educated. And when I looked up the laws of the city, the water laws, oh my gosh, it was like page after page after page after page. I mean, it just seemed like I couldn't even read it all. It was just immensely amazing how much the governmental machine is controlling us. So to think that we're free, really free indeed, is, I don't think, a reality, I should say. Now, we are free, yes, to do certain things within those laws and regulations and rules. I mean, we can choose our own toothpaste, what we decide to eat, whether we're going to take a job, not have a job, where we're going to live, things like that. But I guarantee you, if you start stepping outside the bounds of what's limited to us as citizens of this United States and the world, as it is going now, it's all becoming a one government, and we can talk about that if you want to. It really isn't about freedom. It is the perception of freedom. I think that the reason they talk about us in the United States being free so often is because they're trying to convince us to remind us to keep that perception in check. Now, don't get me wrong. Living in the United States is probably the better place to live in the world, in the globe, because of the technologies and the things that happen in the United States. It's just way different. I mean, people want to come here because there's more opportunities to have jobs and to create things and to have businesses and things. Even as restrictive as I have kind of alluded to that it is still much more free in a way than many other countries. The taxes are higher in other countries. But I think in our country, the taxes are they only appear to be less on the surface. But if you really were to drill it down, the taxes that we pay are immense. I mean, we pay taxes on the money that we're already taxed on, and then we pay taxes on the things we buy with taxes. I mean, on and on and on. And so in reality, there's a lot of our paycheck is really going to the government, and the government is using that money for many more things than the United States citizens. And I get it in helping other people, but I mean, if you walk through like the city of Austin, where I'm staying right now, the homeless population here seems pretty immense. I mean, every corner, everywhere you go, there's people that don't have anywhere to live, apparently, and are begging for money. And some of them are being adventurous and cleaning your windows and things like that while you're at the stoplights to get some money. But even so, there's a lot of people that have been forced out of their normal life, their free life, because they couldn't keep up with the finances, maybe due to their fault. I am not pointing fingers at the government and saying that everybody that's homeless, everybody has problems, is because of the government. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they have a large part in that. Because right now, if you look at the tax bracket that was put out recently, I saw that on one of the mainstream news things, it appears that the taxation table and percentages based on your annual income is designed to take the middle class out of the equation. In reality, the middle class seems to be holding the biggest tax burden. And so it's like, it's encouraging many of us in the United States, at least, to either be satisfied with not making a lot of money and just, scraping by and just being okay with that because we don't have to pay as many taxes, or we got to be extremely rich. But somewhere in the middle there is not a fun place to be, because it's just so many taxes and so many things that are being taken out of our paycheck. I know I'm kind of wandering around here, but this kind of goes back to that whole idea of the multi-billionaires or the elites, certain groups and families and people that are well established for many centuries, for the most part, are very, very interested in how the administration is going to handle their business and to allow their wealth and their way of life to continue, at the cost of the citizens of this nation and the world, of course. It is not just a United States problem, people. This is becoming a global problem, a problem of every country. And I think that's why everybody is fighting against everybody. For one thing, a lot of countries are being squeezed by the powers that be. And so they're having to lash out and try to take what other countries have in order for them to sustain what their lifestyle would like to be. And in the end, I think all these wars are designed to bring everyone to their knees so that one global government can come in, sweep in, and save the day and give everybody peace at some point, I hope, right? Because there's wars all over the place. But get everybody peace, have all these universal laws, and put everybody under the same idea, the same probably socialist regime, where ideally in their speeches and their presentations, like the Agenda 2030, for example, or 2050, I forget which one it is now. But the idea is to make it sound like we are going to be very well taken care of. Everybody's going to have what they need. It's all going to be fair and equitable, and everybody will have a fair shot at a decent life on this planet, in this planet, wherever this is. But in the background, we all know that that's really not the entire agenda. It's like if you're taking 8 billion people, which I think we're at now, somewhere in there. Don't quote me on that number. I think it changes all the time. Obviously, some people die, some people are born. But around 8 billion. But you cannot really manage that many people without having some type of hardcore oversight and boundaries and laws and restrictions. Otherwise, everybody just goes chaotic and goes out of hand, and then you don't have any control at all. Because if the majority of our population could agree that the current administrations across the planet, I'm talking about all of them, are corrupt and they're going the wrong direction and the political machine is the wrong idea, if we could get most of the population to agree, it wouldn't be that hard to affect change, because those that rule us are very small in number. In the United States, I think the Congress is around, 500 plus. Not very much, right? I'm not very political or politically minded, so that number escapes me. But I think you get the point. If you got almost 400 million people in the United States and there's 500 people that rule over us and govern us for the elite of the world, then it wouldn't be very difficult to make that change. In order to keep us from coming together, they have to keep us divided, right? And so if you have a candidate up there, once again, back to the original topic, if you have a president up there that wants to bring everybody together and quit the division and create a harmonious society without race, without gender issues, without money issues, without all of that stuff, right, that's dividing us, then they're not going to allow that to happen. I believe, in my opinion, once again, through my research and reading and ideas that I've heard from lots and lots of people about the death of President Kennedy, I believe that he was one of those good guys. The one that wanted to take the cloak of secrecy off and to actually inform the public about what's going on and to make it right and to actually do the right thing. And you see what happened there, right? I mean, there's a lot of speculation of who killed him. Unalived him. I guess that's a political way of saying that. Assassinated him. Okay, that's a better word. I believe it was done by some of our own. Now, don't quote me on that because I don't know. I don't know really anything. I'm just looking at things from the outside and making my own ideas. I'm not accusing or pointing anything. I would never do that because I don't know. And I'm not going to say it's for entertainment purposes because it's not very entertaining if what I'm talking about is actually true. I'm not saying that the life we have is horrible. And I'm not saying my life is bad or it has been bad. It's been a pretty good life. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I think if we were to peel the layers of the onion or the cloak of secrecy that happens around this planet, I think we would see things that we would not like, that we would not tolerate from anybody. I mean, we don't individually tolerate those things from people, even our bosses. I mean, we need to keep a job, so a lot of times we will tolerate it. But I mean, there's so many ways that people treat us that we would not put up with. Yet the governments of the world do the same thing, and we allow it to happen. And we have basically built our own prison or allowed the building of our prison around us without even noticing that it's happening. I don't think we're at any point that we are going to be able to escape this prison in any way. I believe we're here, we're in it. There's nothing that I think is going to break us out of this anytime soon. Not giving anything that major that might happen amongst the population. But even people in the populations have tried those things. They've tried to get together and do or fight back against the machine. And that didn't go well. It doesn't go well. But the thing is, to be honest, I think governments like that division. They want people to fight. They want people to be angry. Because if they're angry and they're fighting amongst political parties and amongst races and amongst countries, then they're not going to pay attention to what's happening in the background. They don't have the time. They're trying to survive. They're trying to make a point. They're trying to eat. They're trying to feed their kids. They're trying to have a home, all of that stuff. So most of us don't have the opportunity to really sit down and read through these things and look at these things. Even though our information flow these days across the internet is very unreliable. I mean, alternative news used to be pretty good. When I started looking at it in the early 2000s, now that's even bad. So I mean AI that's in place now, you cannot tell if that video you looked at about Kamala Harris on her podium in her speech is actually accurate, or was that actually done by an AI generated video making program? Who knows, right? I mean, everything that's put out there about all these wars and all these bombs that are being put out, Israel and back and forth between Israel and Iran and on and on. Some of that's being broadcast on the news could be very well artificially put together, generated. Now, I'm not saying it is. I'm not downgrading any people that are being injured or being killed during these operations and these things that are happening. Not saying that at all. I'm saying, but people are taking advantage of the fact that we seem to dwell on the negative, and we would rather be involved in hating one country over another because this one's doing that and that one's doing that we're not paying attention to our surroundings and realizing that, like we talked about, that there's taxes being taken out all over the place and out of our paycheck, that prices are going up, things are changing, jobs are going away, businesses are closing, oh, just all kind of things are happening around us and we're not even paying attention. And I think that's the secret to anything we do in life, is to really take the time to be mindful and pay attention to our surroundings in our own lives. Now, we can affect our own lives, because that's one thing we still can control: our own attitudes, our own perceptions, our own beliefs. Those are still ours currently, with the advent of AI and the Internet of Things, and being ultimately connected through the internet to everything. It's becoming more difficult. However, we do have the ability to mind our own selves. So this is where the metaphysical part comes in for me, is that you can create your own life, your own ideas, your own goals, your own path. Would it be difficult? Of course it will, because nothing that comes easy is going to be, nothing that you want comes easy. That's what I meant to say. It's going to be hard. It's supposed to be hard. That's just the way it is. I mean, getting something easily or for free doesn't really mean anything. And it's just like, if somebody just gave you a Super Bowl ring, that wouldn't mean anything to you. But if you spent the whole entire season training and playing and making it the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl, you're going to wear that ring like it's the prize that it is. Not somebody that was just given the Super Bowl ring. That just doesn't make any sense, right? And it's the same thing with life. Everything is designed, in my opinion, as a human, to be difficult. We're here to learn. We're here to stretch ourselves. We're here to become a better version of ourselves than we were yesterday and 10 years ago and all that. And we have to make a choice. Do we allow the agenda of those that govern us to bring us down and to sour our happiness and to sour our purpose and what we want to get out of life? Or are we going to go after it? Are we going to do something about it? At least put the effort in and put a step forward, step after step after step, towards whatever it is that you want. We don't want to go to our graves with all the dreams still in us. So I've talked about that a lot. Many people talk about that. You got to at least chase those dreams. And in achieving those dreams is not always the real ultimate goal, in my opinion, but having that goal, that carrot out in front of you, is the idea. Because it's the process of chasing that dream and that goal in those ideas that the magic happens. This is where you become a much better version of yourself, and this is where you become someone that you want to be in the process of trying to achieve those goals. I talked about a lot of things that don't sound so good. Whether they're true or not, I don't know. And it really doesn't matter to me. I just kind of looking at things from the outside. And I hope you don't take this as I'm telling you something that's true. Do your own research, look at it yourself, and you decide for yourself. And you decide whether you're going to do something with it. That's up to you. But the point is that we have to remember that stuff is going to happen. All those things are going to happen around us. We may or may not be affected directly by them. But the thing is, we have to remember that there's a place for that, and there's a place for those things. And we need to actually focus more inward on ourselves and not worry as much about things that are happening external to us that we cannot affect or change. We really should focus on the things that we can change, and that is us. And when we change us and we improve ourselves, and we become wealthy, or we become abundant, or we whatever, we contribute to the whole of mankind, because we're all one big sea of souls on this planet. And the better any of us can become, the better the rest of the humanity can be. All right, I will phase out on that comment. As usual, I would really love to hear from you guys. I encourage you guys to go to my website, lifebymazak.com, lifebymazak.com. Look at the contact page, pick a way to reach out to me, and I'd like to have a conversation, because I learn, you learn, we all learn, and my ideas are not necessarily always right, and my ideas and my perceptions are not always correct. And it's nice to hear other viewpoints to see if, I can meld and you can meld all these ideas together and we can come up with a much better idea or process or way of looking at this world. Anyway, you will hear from me many times in the future behind this microphone. I look forward to hearing from you guys. Stay strong and live your life.